Yep, but we're coming into camera 3. Welcome to Sports Talk Live. Josh Freeman signs with the Vikings, Clay Matthews breaks his thumb, and Tiger Woods is looking sexy as ever. Stay tuned. Sports Talk Live is next. Talk Live. I'm Nick Ragner.
I'm Keondre Gholston.
And I'm Braden Schrupp. To start things off, Josh Freeman, former quarterback of the Tampa Bay Bucks, has just signed a one-year contract with the Minnesota Vikings. This brings up a controversy of the quarterback role of Christian Ponder. What do you think, Nick?
Pretty much, I don't know. It's definitely a big controversy right now. I mean, you have Christian Ponder. Leslie Frazier has said time and time again that Christian Ponder is their guy. But Josh Freeman, he's a really good-looking kid. I mean, this year hasn't been too good for him, but in just last year he threw 27 TDs. The guy's only 26 years old. He has a lot of upside, and he can really provide that stopgap fix that Minnesota seems to yearn for season after season.
I think it's also a fine pickup for the Minnesota Vikings. I think that when he was with Tampa Bay, they put him in a bad system. As you can see, they're going through a rebuilding process currently, so I think that him going to Minnesota and getting up with Adrian Peterson is going to be a good, nice hookup.
I personally think Josh Freeman is a big quarterback. I think it's good. I think this is a similar situation to when Green Bay had brought in some kickers to I feel like they kind of did that to scare Mason Crosby a little bit and to stop sucking. You know, it's kind of that same situation where they sign another quarterback. Both Christian Ponder and Josh Freeman both have potential. And what's going to happen is these two young quarterbacks are going to be competing for the spot, and they're going to have to step up their game, both of them. And then in the end, one of them is going to be better, and they're going to be a better quarterback because of it and fit into that kind of system.
Well, here's the problem, though. So you have Matt Castle winning Minnesota's only game this year. Do you just disregard that and take the guy out and put Josh, because I know Leslie Frazier went on record saying that Josh Freeman won't start this Sunday, but the following Sunday, what do you do if Matt Castle comes back and wins yet another game for Minnesota? Do you just strip him of those two wins and start Freeman or Ponder, or what do you exactly do in that situation? That's the problem they run into.
Yeah, that brings a huge controversy in that situation because Matt Castle, obviously, he played great against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He managed the game. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And I feel like I kind of expect that from him for a little bit more. I think it's his 9th season as a quarterback. Yeah. He's past his prime, and that's just what it is. They're not going to look for him to be their season quarterback. As good as he did against the Pittsburgh Steelers, we've seen him the last 9 seasons. I can't see him starting throughout the rest of the season and being their go-to quarterback.
And I personally just don't understand what the Minnesota Vikings are doing. You bring in a free agent in Josh Freeman and you pay him $3 million for a 1-year contract. And then you say, well, if Christian Ponder gets better, then he'll come back in the next couple weeks. And then you say, well, if, like you mentioned, what if Matt Castle wins a game again? Then does Christian Ponder start? Is he even in the equation? Did you just give away free money to Josh Freeman for $3 million and pull a Matt Flynn, or what's going on here?
There's going to be a lot of confusion and a lot of unexpected things to go.
Yeah, well, sticking with NFL, we know that Clay Matthews this past Sunday against the Detroit Lions broke his thumb, and I thought the guy was going to put a cast on, but he is out for an entire month, 4 weeks. What kind of impact do you guys think that missing Clay Matthews is going to have on this Packer D?
I think it's going to have a huge impact because he's their best pass rusher. He puts up a lot of. This surgery is going. It's not only just that. After he comes back from surgery, he's going to need to probably wear a cast. Ray Lewis had a similar surgery, and Ray Lewis, it was different for him because he wasn't much of a pass rusher. But when you're pass rushing, you got to push aside. You got to do a lot more different things with your hands, and it's going to put a lot more pressure on Rodgers. It's going to hurt the Packers a lot more, and they're not going to be as good because of it. However, I think it couldn't have happened at a much better time for the Packers because it's still middle of the season. I think they're still a playoff caliber team with or without Matthews. He'll be 100% by the time that they need him for the playoffs.
I think that Green Bay will be okay. I believe that we've are immune and used to dealing with injuries, and that it's something that we're accustomed to. Clay is obviously one of our franchise players, but I think that we've done well without our franchise players, with Morgan Burnett being out, and we had Casey Hayward hurt for a while, and even Clay himself is always known to have those hamstring injuries. So I think that we'll be fine. Our defense is vastly improved from last year. 1 month, like you said, it couldn't have came at a better time.
Yeah, one of the key things here is Mike Neal just got moved to outside linebacker once Clay got injured. The guy had 6 tackles and 1 sack. Nick Perry was playing off the bench, and the guy had 2 sacks, the best game of his career. So, I mean, Nick Perry and Mike Neal both stepped up when Clay Matthews went down, and, you know, that's something positive. I mean, you never want to wish an injury on a superstar player, but when you see role guys coming up like that and making key big plays when your superstars go down, you know, the guys that, you know, take up half the payroll, I think that's really important, because then it shows progression, and it shows that once Clay comes back, you have more defensive options than just Clay Matthews on that right side. So that's what I think about that.
I think it's like we said, it's a good time for them. They Clay Matthews, he was out for about a month last year as well, if I remember correctly, and the Packers did just fine throughout the season. He's obviously a franchise player. He's somebody that's tough to lose, but you've had role players that are stepping in well, and maybe it's going to put more pressure on Rodgers, but Rodgers has handled pressure many, many times before and has worked well with the worst defense. So.
Yeah, I agree. I second everything that you guys have said. I do agree that it's a good thing that it's happening now, and that it only helps and improves our team in the long run, because actually, you know, with Clay being out, like you said, it helps another young player step their game up.
It really allows, too. I mean, I know that really quick. I know that our defense is really important. I know that getting a pass rush is really important, but I mean, you know, the offense is where it's at with Green Bay, so that's pretty much how it is.
Good point. Now, moving on from NFL onto a different sport, golf with the Presidential Cup was this past weekend. Did you guys happen to catch that at all?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the U.S. has won again, with Tiger looking up to par.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that?
That's a good pun. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, this is their 5th straight Presidential Cup in the U.S., so big kudos to those guys. When it looked like Tiger was falling off and losing all of his mojo, he pulls together these strings, and all of a sudden he looks back to Tiger form. I believe he's also #1 golf player in the world, currently again for the 2nd year running.
Wow.
So, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's very good. I think Tiger Woods, that was his 24th President Cup match win. And that's the most of any other player throughout the President Cup. And also that they, other than they won it 5 years in a row. The year before that they had tied, and then they had won it, I think, the 4 years before that as well. So the U.S. has been very dominant in the Presidential Cup. I think this will give us a lot of motivation, a lot of momentum going into next year's Ryder Cup, where we lost to Europe last year, and that was a painful loss, and we'd like to take that back.
You know, it's kind of funny, because when you talk about it, it's the U.S. President's Cup. It's, it's a huge golf competition. It's the U.S. versus the world. And the headlines you're seeing everywhere are Tiger Woods finishing out the President's Cup. The guy scored the last point to cement the win for the United States. Mm-hmm. And now the questions, instead of becoming celebrations or who looked good at this event, is Tiger Woods coming back to form? Now that's really hard to pick, because this guy seems to pick events in which he's going to play like his old self, and then when it comes around to it, the guy just isn't performing as well as he did, the past 5 years or whatever. I think we can look at this, maybe one of his problems these past couple of years, ever since his downfall, has been that he hasn't been able to close out golfing competitions. The guy could get to a hot lead, and then he can't seem to close, which is what Tiger's always been known for. So I think this is a really good good for his ego, which is what Tiger Woods is about. It's all about ego, and trying to cement his legacy more going forward after this President's Cup.
All right, moving on to another sport. The NHL just took off already this year. Luckily, there's no late start. There was no lockout earlier this year. We're looking at early season predictions on who we're thinking is going to be a top NHL team this year. What would you think there, Dre?
I personally am a Chicago Blackhawks fan. I'm a Patrick Kane fan. For those of you who don't know who Patrick Kane is, go YouTube him and check out some of his penalty shots, some of the sickest moves that you probably have ever seen. I'm just a big fan of him, so wherever Patrick is, that's who I root for.
Well, I think it's pretty easy to pick the Blackhawks. I mean, they're returning champs, so that's one thing. I never discount the Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Penguins because, Sidney Crosby is the man.
Yeah.
He's the man with the plan. And then you can never discount the Boston Bruins. I mean, with the, the tradition. There's always like one or two teams in every single sport that are just in it every single year, and that's who the Boston Bruins seem to be. So, I mean, those are probably my 3 picks to go far this NHL season.
The Boston Bruins, they came back strong. They lost Jerome McGinley after picking him up last year, and they also lost Yager to the New Jersey Devils, which is a rough loss, and they still came back and started out undefeated just like right away. They're already number 1 in the power rankings, and they're looking to be great. However, even though the Minnesota Wild has started out 0-2 so far this season, they lost 2 games in overtime, which if you watch the game, you probably would have believed they should have had a different fate in that sense. I still think that they have one of the best first lines in the entire NHL. They got Mikko Koivu, Zach Parise, Jason Pominville, and Ryan Suter. All those players are eligible captains on well over half of the NHL team. So what that means is that they're possibly be the best player on any other team, on almost any other team in the NHL. And it's just that their second, third, and fourth line, they're young, they're up and coming, and they're underrated right now. I think by the end of the season, get a little bit more stuff under their belt, they're going to be a dominant force in the playoffs. They might not go in number 1 seed, but be ready for them to be heard for the Stanley Cup.
Well, guys, I think that's enough of us rambling for now. We're going to take a look at some of those perfect pets. Sports Talk Live will be back right after this.
Meet Kaya. She's a 1-year-old lab mix. She is very social and is one silly girl. And here's Addie, a curious, gentle 2-year-old domestic short-haired cat that always wants to know what's going on. Meet Toby, a 3-year-old coonhound mix. He's very handsome, energetic, and can't wait to meet you.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the phone number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. So, moving on here on Sports Talk Live, I think we've been a little too nice to each other. Let's start getting into the nitty-gritty of debates. One thing I know we're all passionate about is the NFL, and we're 5 games in, and it's been a pretty crazy season thus far. And we're going to talk, I guess, not necessarily mid-season awards, but 5-game-in season awards. Our first award we're going to talk about right now is the offensive MVP, and I want to hear who you guys have.
Starting, it might be a shocker. I'm not going to go with the obvious. I'm actually going to go the complete opposite, and I'm going to say that Andrew Luck right now is my season MVP. Right now, I'm putting my money on it.
Okay.
The kid is just doing phenomenal things. He has a 4-1 record, which could easily be 5-0. They lost to the Miami Dolphins, which surprisingly they aren't bad this year. No. He has, as 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with a 94.1 quarterback rating. I think that's pretty good. And to top it all off, he's beat 2 of the top NFC teams in San Francisco and Seattle. Take that, Peyton.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm going to go against the obvious, too. I'm going to say Calvin Johnson. Now, I mean, this guy has missed this last week against Green Bay, but just his numbers aren't, I guess, really staggering this year, but he's been extremely important to his team. See, the Packers' defense is ranked 26th against the pass, and even Matt Stafford, without Calvin Johnson, could only put up 9 points. So, I mean, this guy couldn't score anything really at all. 37, 40, and 27 in their wins, with Calvin Johnson scoring 2 TDs in their 21-25 loss. So this guy has been more important to any offense, because obviously it really showed when Detroit played a terrible Green Bay Packers pass defense that he literally is extremely valuable to this Detroit Lions offense. I mean, the guy scores TDs and he keeps them in games. So.
All right, well, if we're going to go most obvious player for a team, I think that Adrian Peterson is far more obvious than Calvin Johnson going to be. I would love to see the Vikings try and score a point without Adrian Peterson, okay? Also, I don't think Adrian Peterson, I'm not saying that he's the MVP, I just think that he's more valuable to his team than Calvin Johnson. Wow. You guys are going against the obvious here, but the reason it's obvious is because it's obvious. It's Peyton Manning. 20 touchdowns, I don't need to even go through the stats. He's breaking records all day. Easily, you can't
easy way out.
No, you can go the easy way out because it's the easy answer.
Well, let's give you something a little bit more difficult. Instead of offensive MVP, let's go with who's your defensive 5-game-in MVP this year?
Well, that's really easy for me to say. I mean, it has to be Geno Atkins. Have you seen this guy? He is literally a space eater. He only has 3.5 sacks on the season, but he's made this Bengals defense 10th in rushing and 11th in passing. Now, that may not sound all that impressive, but this guy is literally almost doing it on his own. He's playing nose tackle, and he is just he's literally cutting off anything up the middle in that field, and I think that's one of the most. Plus, he's super athletic. He gets to the quarterback. He's not one of those D tackles that sits there and waits for guys to come to him. He'll go 10 yards deep to try to sack whoever's in the pocket. So I think that's the most impressive thing. This guy's the most important man on defense this year.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say Justin Houston out of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's the first defensive player on the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Defensive Player of the Month since 1997. Wow. He has 8.5 sacks this season. He has a forced fumble, and he's off to a great start with the undefeated Chiefs, who are looking great so far this season. He is their star defensive player. He's going to win the defensive MVP.
You both make good arguments, but once again, let me school you guys a little bit. I'm going to go with none other than Mr. Conceited himself, Richard Sherman.
Really?
Yes.
After he just got stomped at Indianapolis, did you see that?
I am.
I would have went Sherman before that.
But once again, you have to understand, it was by my offensive MVP. So it works out a little bit. But Richard Sherman, you guys, people don't even throw to this guy's side of the field anymore. He has 11 tackles on the year, I know, which is not a lot. But once again, people don't throw to his side. He has 2 interceptions. If you guys caught the Houston game last week, Matt Schaub, one of those interceptions was a pick 6.
Matt Schaub has been pretty off this year, though.
I caught the game against the Colts. That's all I needed to see. All right, so we'll move on to offensive or defensive rookie of the year so far. This has been a little slow start for rookies so far, but there's definitely some names that are coming out and will make an impact so far this season. What do you guys think?
I think it's really obvious. I think Geno Smith is definitely the offensive rookie of the year, or defensive altogether. If you guys saw this man play last night, he was looking like a 10-year vet out there, man. His passes were right on cue. The guy had 149 quarterback rating against Atlanta last night, 3 TDs, no interceptions. And if you look at his overall stats in the season, they're a little skewed because he had a pretty terrible game against my ball-hawking Patriots defense where he threw 3 picks and no TDs. But other than that, he has been on cue. And who does he have to throw to? Can anybody name more than 2 receivers on the New York Jets offense? I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. The guy is really doing it. They actually have a chance to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to, but with a team of nobodies, they're actually whooping butt right now. So that's my
Jets
offense.
in the playoffs. I'm kind of shocked by that one. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see Geno. What I did see coming was Kiko Alfonso from the Buffalo Bills.
Really?
I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, but this guy's out of Oregon. And, well, you better keep your ears open because you're going to hear about him soon. This guy is just a wrecking ball. He has great hands. He's a middle linebacker for the Buffalo Bills, has great hands, intercepts the balls. He makes tackles. I think right now he has 16 tackles on the year. He does a great job. He's made the Buffalo Bills defense, along with Mario Williams. You guys remember that #1 pick back in the day? They made him a little bit relevant in my eyes.
I'm going to disagree with both of you as well. Giovanni Bernard, of the running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, he's taking over the starting spot over Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. He's coming in as a rookie. Nobody really expected much, and now he's starting to take off. His season 5, up to week 5, aren't that spectacular, but give it 11 more weeks as the Bengals are becoming one of the high threats in the NFL, and he's going to be their leading running back. He's going to be a big star on their team. Expect him to have big numbers.
Well, moving on, I guess. We haven't really agreed on anything yet.
No.
Moving on to Week 5 awards. Right now, we're going to talk about the Coach of the Year. So, guys, who has made the biggest impact as a coach thus far in the season?
I don't even think this is really arguable. I hate to say this. I really dislike the Saints, but Sean Payton, obviously they come back from last year where he was off the whole season. Sean Payton comes in, now they're 5-0. He obviously he's showing how he's one of the top coaches in the NFL and how why they were pretty much nothing without him last year. They weren't nearly as good anyway.
Yeah, pretty similar team too. It's not like they really changed much. So.
No,
I love the choice. I love the team, but once again, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think the obvious choice here for the Coach of the Year would be Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have picked them as 5-0? I mean,
I thought we were leaning away from obvious choices.
I think that we can all agree on that one, though. You know, who would have picked Chiefs at 5-0, not me.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there. I could have picked the Chiefs 5-0, man. They looked really good this offseason, and I'm going to go with you on that one. We can agree on something. Andy Reid is for sure the Coach of the Year, man. I mean, he's Alex Smith. He was able to bring Alex Smith from San Francisco, get him comfortable in another offense with a team that, Jamal Charles is back, and their defense was actually pretty good last year, but I mean, their team has just taken off. If you look at their stats, nothing's really that impressive about them. So I mean, that's one thing you can really say about Andy Reid's coaching ability, his decision making, his play calling. Like, that stuff's really important, obviously, if their players aren't carrying the team itself with stat lines. So I think it's pretty obvious that Andy Reid. Although Sean Payton's a good pick.
I agree. Sean Payton's good, but I think we got this one with
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. He taught Alex Smith how to manage a game very well. I don't think that's very spectacular. He did it just as fine at San Francisco as well. I don't think he taught him much.
Well, you're just pulling hairs. You're just pulling hairs now. Like we talked about, man, this Kansas City Chiefs won 2 games last season, and now they've won 3 more games than they did last season. Come on.
Has a good point. Right. But since we're talking about surprises and the Kansas City Chiefs here starting out 5-0, what other NFL surprises do you guys have this year as far as either 5-0 teams, 0-5 teams with disappointing records?
Yeah, I'll start it here. The Steelers. They're 0-4 right now. I mean, they get a grade F from me easily. I mean, Big Ben, their quarterback, even said after their week 4 loss to the Vikings, said that they were the worst team in the NFL. I don't know if he's watched the Jaguars much, obviously, but they've only been below 500 once since 2004. And this is pretty obvious. I feel like they're 0-4. This is not Steelers football. They're not playing hard-nosed football. And Tomlin needs to get a hand on things, and so does Big Ben.
I think this is an obvious one. Did you guys watch Atlanta last night?
That was terrible.
Yeah, dude. I thought Atlanta was going to be like a premier Super Bowl contender. I'm not going to lie to you. I really thought that, and I feel like an idiot for thinking that because what is going on there? I don't even know what to say. I can't think of anything. Hurt? Yeah, Julio might be out for the whole season.
Yeah.
What is there to say? Roddy White has a nagging injury. I mean, their offense looked so good on paper coming into the season, and now they're 1-4 and looking like they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, Matty Ice went from being an MVP last year to now being, just some average quarterback running a team that's getting run into the ground. So I mean, that's a surprise to me.
And my choice, I think I'm going to do it just to, because of my hometown team, Green Bay here. I think the worst team right now is Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. I might be a little biased, who knows.
A little bit.
But Greg Jennings, he was, running his mouth going back to Minnesota about how bad the Packers were, and now look at it, buddy. Who's throwing the ball to you? Who's throwing the ball to you guys? That's an important question for you guys.
I might have to disagree with you there. I'm a Packer fan myself, and of course a Patriot fan, but Minnesota, I wouldn't say it's the worst team in the league.
Have you watched Jacksonville play? Have you seen Jacksonville play? They are clearly
they're a college team. I think Alabama could be.
They are boys amongst men.
I thought that was the obvious choice.
Adrian Peterson could beat Jacksonville single-handedly.
Sometimes you don't go against the grain when your choices.
So not that far out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something else that really surprises me, just to keep things going. Tom Brady, the guy has a 56.6 completion percentage, in his passes.
Like, he doesn't even know the name of his receiver.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it.
I don't either.
I've never heard of it.
We can all agree on that one, too.
We got a dishwasher from Foxborough just catching balls or something. I don't really know what's going on. Well, stay tuned for Sports Talk Live. We'll be right back after this UWL promo.
Fact: University of Wisconsin-La Crosse is ranked the #2 college in the Midwest.
UW-La Crosse is ranked number 34 for out-of-state students among public universities nationwide.
UW-La Crosse is ranked as one of the most military-friendly schools in the nation.
UW-La Crosse is number 24 among medium colleges and universities for Peace Corps volunteers.
Well, welcome back to Sports Talk Live. We're going to go through some quick hits. We're going to hit them real talk. We're going to talk about some things real quick. Well, Peyton Manning's been breaking records like crazy so far. They just broke another one. They just tied the biggest spread across against the Jaguars in Week 6. They are picked to win by 28 points. What do you guys think of that?
I think that it's very realistic, but I've heard reports that Brock Osweiler might start over Peyton Manning because they're trying to rest him because they think they're going to be the Jaguars. And I think that happens if they rest Peyton. I think Peyton's extremely important, and if Brock Osweiler were to play against this team, I think they might have a chance to lose. Other than that, if Peyton starts, yeah, that's
I agree. I think that Peyton doesn't play, they lose.
All right, I say pick the Jaguars because nobody's ever done that. All right.
Good for you. Moving on, we're going to talk some MLB baseball. The playoffs are underway right now, and we want to know, who are you guys picking to come out of the AL?
I'm taking the Red Sox. Going Boston, Fenway Park. The question's asked.
I'm going with Boston as well. I think they have too much power, too much pitching.
I'm going to agree with you guys as well. Right now, they're not a really sexy pick. Not a lot of people are picking Boston outside of, obviously, this desk. But Big Poppies look good. Dustin Pedroia knocking in RBIs. And when you have a top starting three of Lackey, Lester, and Buchholz, regardless of how they're pitching right now, that's a star-studded lineup. So pitching is important in the playoffs. And, yeah, you can't really pick against Boston right now, especially with how bad Detroit's been looking. So
yeah, well, without Cabrera, they're not nearly as good.
Yep.
All right, so we have our AL predictions. What about our National League predictions? Who do you guys have coming out?
I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates. I like that team. I like that they picked up Justin Morneau in the offseason, even though they took him from my Twins. I think that they're looking very good this season. I think they're going to come back and make definitely some noise over in the World Series.
Well, now it seems like we're all thinking alike. Great minds think alike. That's what everybody always says. I'm thinking the Pittsburgh Pirates as well. Marlon Bird's playing out of his mind. Russell Martin, I'm surprised the Yankees let that guy go, man. He's a great guy to have at the plate. And then their pitching of Garrett Cole, Francisco Liriano, and Charlie Morton has all been really red hot these playoffs. So I'm picking the Pirates to come out of the
NL. And I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to go out on a whim and be the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's not a whim.
I'm going to go out on a whim and say them.
That's the obvious pick.
I roll with that. Hey, we have this debate going on with this obvious thing up here today. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I think Yasiel Puig brings too much.
Okay.
And too much. They're on a run. Yeah. On a good run.
Clayton Kershaw is a beast.
All right, sounds good. Well, last season the Milwaukee Bucks went into the playoffs at number 8 seed and got stumped by Miami. How about this year? You think that with the pickup of O.J. Mayo that they're going to make a better run at the playoffs this year?
I'm taking this one from you before you
talk.
All
right, go ahead.
I've let my voice be heard about this. Okay, I think picking up O.J. Mayo was dumb. Picking up Karan Butler was dumb. I think that there's 8 teams: Chicago, Miami, Indiana. I think Washington has a better chance to get in the playoffs. New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets, Cleveland Cavaliers. They're going to be good this year, and the Boston Celtics all have a better chance to get in the playoffs over the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't see them making it. I see them spending all this money and just being that middle of the pack team that gets a terrible draft pick.
I think it could be a hit or a miss season. Maybe, that's just my Bucks bias once again creeping in. But I think the OJ, it wasn't the best move. I would have preferred if we would have actually went out and got J.R. Smith during free agency. I think that he's...
Do you think O.J. Mayo can be a legit scorer, a legit premier scorer on a team, the number 1 option?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I did out of high school, but then in college he kind of faded off and hasn't got back.
All right, so now are we moving on to FaceTime then?
I think we're going to do the upset alert. I think I want to talk. I want to talk about upset.
All right, so
I want to get that out of the way.
This sounds good. So we got the NFL Week 6 picking up some upsets. Who wants to start off with that?
I can start with that one. You know what? I'm going to pick. You know what? I'm going to go with you. I'm saying the Jaguars are beating the Broncos this week, baby. If they start Chad Henne,
put your money down.
It's not even a game. If Chad Henne starts, this team's going places. I got Justin Blackmon on my fantasy football team. He'll score me 2 TDs. Jaguars over the Broncos, week 6. Mark it on your calendars.
I'm going to go with Chargers over the Colts, over your little MVP there, team. They play Monday night. Chargers are looking better. Phillip Rivers he's still a solid quarterback, and I think Andrew Luck, as a second-year quarterback, he's going to hit his mistakes. They're gonna hit their losses, and I think this week is the one.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to agree and say that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to beat the Denver Broncos. I think that when you get too high on your high horse, you need a team like Jacksonville to knock you off. So especially resting Peyton, I think that's a very cocky and conceited move to do, and payback.
Guys, there's something that I really wanted to get off my chest, and I just mentioned it right now, and it's my fantasy football team. What are you doing, Tom Brady? Where have you been, man? I drafted you high because you're Tom Brady. And dude scored me 6 points last week. Are you kidding me? And then I get Joyke Bell, and the first 2 weeks I'm like, this guy's good. Joyke Bell is good. He's a good player. And then all of a sudden Reggie Bush comes back, and they're like, don't give him the ball anymore. What is going on? Help me out, Joyke Bell and Tom Brady.
Well, what upsets me is that my Duke Blue Devils did not get Andrew Wiggins. I don't know if you guys know about this kid.
Oh, yeah, I know about
him.
Wiggins.
He's a phenom. He's the next big thing. People are comparing him to the LeBron and the Michaels, of course. But he's at Kansas. They're getting ready to start up. I'm a big college basketball fan. I'm pretty excited to see what he does there, but I'm upset Duke didn't get him.
NBA teams already taken
I'm going to throw a complete curveball here and go somewhere completely out of sports. I was in Centennial Hall the other day, and somebody yells at me for taking the elevator instead of the stairs. I'm like, yes, I take the elevator instead of the stairs. I use a cell phone instead of a landline. I also use the internet instead of the library. I mean, it's called innovation. We'll just it works smarter, not harder, people.
Well, that's ridiculous. What a weird person that is.
I'm not happy at all. I was very ticked off about that. I'm like, how could you even criticize me?
What do they do? Do they use like rolling carriages when they walk around the city? Do they?
Right.
I don't know. That's pretty weird.
All right.
It's a little different, man.
All right. So that's all we have for this week's Sports Talk Live. Thank you for joining us. It's been real fun. This is Keondre's first time. Tell him good job. All right. Take care, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.